As the sun sets, the coffin lids rise, and the creatures of the night awake. We greet you. This is the Morning Show.
Here at the Morning Show, we strive to bring you the latest news, music, product, and entertainment reviews, travel, cuisine, and interviews with the people you loathe the most. But first, to see what the night shall bring, we go to our local lunatic, Esmeralda. So, what's the foreshadowing forecast?
The lunar phase for tonight, July the 4th of 2014, is a waxing crescent in the zodiac sign of Libra, the sign of the scales.
Ah, yes, and let's see what news that waxing crescent shall bring. This week, goth was mentioned favorably in the mainstream news for a change. Grammy.com's Brian Reisman reported, "The state of goth. The gothic subculture continues to pervade pop culture with artists such as Voltaire carrying the torch. Though skeptics have quipped that gothic music is dead and undead, to paraphrase Bauhaus, the subculture continues to thrive and survive in a constantly evolving music landscape. While Gothic progenitors such as the Sisters of Mercy and Susie and the Banshees cracked the Billboard charts in the 80s, the 90s featured an underground cross-pollination of ethereal, dark wave, and industrial groups. By the 2000s, electropop and industrial acts took over as Gothic magazines and club nights dwindled. But today, the Gothic spirit is far from dead. Its aesthetic continues to pervade pop culture, from bands to horror films and TV shows. Additionally, the Gothic subgenres have endured, with some artists like Emily Autumn, whose unique Victorian industrial sound has broken into mainstream awareness just as Susie and the Cure did back in the day. Veteran artists such as Peter Murphy, Monica Richards, and William Faith have remained active on the touring circuit, while newer bands such as the Birthday Massacre, Combi Christ, and Bella Morte are infusing their music with electronic elements. Gothic music was once the province of Romantics, Byron and Shelley, and late 1800s Victorianism expressed in music, says Ronan Harris of English-Irish electropop group V&V Nation. Suddenly, there's this whole new generation describing very different metaphysical things, a new form of poetry appealing to both crowds. Some of the fashions are being crossed over and everything is being called Gothic culture. Even industrial clubs are being called Gothic clubs. Patrick Rogers, owner of Philadelphia-based Gothic industrial alternative, vampire, and underground special events promoter Dancing Fair Entertainment Group, sees big changes in today's Gothic subculture. 3 to 5 years ago, if you asked some guy named Jim about being a goth, he'd say, "I go to Gothic events and listen to Gothic music because that's an integral part of who I am. I'm a goth." Now, his answer would most likely be, "I go to all sorts of subculture events, like anime conventions, goth parties, burner events, fetish clubs, and stuff like that, because being involved in the subculture is an integral part of who I am." Richards, who released her third solo album, Kindred, in 2013 and had the World Goth Day Festival in Mexico on May 31st, mirrors this view in her own career. "I'm not sure anymore about scenes," she says. "I'm just putting it out, and whoever loves it, loves it. I'm becoming myself more and not worrying about fitting into a genre. On my fan page, I put photos of myself in my ranch jeans. 15 years ago, that would have mortified me. Cuban-American dark cabaret musician Voltaire says Gothic music is a big black umbrella that encompasses so many different styles of music and different philosophies, all of which at the core have some fascination with darkness. Voltaire acknowledges that appealing to audiences at US-based events as diverse as the steampunk. Sorry about that, my mouth is messed up. Did Lena go away? Oh, there you
No,
are.
I was trying not to sneeze.
Mhm. Sorry for this break, but my mouth was getting a little dry. Voltaire acknowledges that appealing to audiences at US-based events as diverse as the Steampunk Empire Symposium and DragonCon has expanded his reach. My first career was as a stop-motion animator, and if I had to rely on that, my family would starve to death, he says. I feel the same way about goth. If my audience was nothing but an entire Gothic audience, I wouldn't be doing so well. Ed Klein, also known as Joe Radio, who is a DJ at San Francisco's Death Guild, the longest-running weekly Gothic club night in the United States, says that goth is still an all-ages style. If you asked our patrons what music qualifies as goth these days, you'd get a bunch of different answers. According to Klein, some of these answers would include subgenres such as traditional goth, The Cure, Susie and the Banshees, Joy Division, classic industrial, Skinny Puppy, Front 242, dark wave, Zola Jesus, Florence and the Machine, dark synth, Legend, Mr. Kitty, Trust, and the Witch House Underground, which includes groups such as Black Ceiling. There's a whole new young audience I see going to clubs with Sisters of Mercy, an 80s German industrial band, Einstürzend Nebeten. Yeah, I screwed that one up. Let me just reword that. An 80s German industrial band's tattoos. No, that didn't work. I'm trying to reform the sentence on the fly. An 80s German industrial band tattoos who are too young to ever even have seen those bands live, adds Ashkelon San of Trance's Son. Sane? Let me try again. Adds Ashkelon Sane of Trance to the Sun. The legend of what Gothic was and could be is gaining steam from what I can see. Did you just fall over, Lena?
No, I had to. No, something fell over. It wasn't me, but something else did.
And you can't sit down there and wait. The fan's not in there.
It's difficult because the room isn't very big. I mean, I could do this, but I mean, it's gonna be. There's a lot I can do about it. Unfortunately, it's just. It's
my
not a big room.
ADD screws hit me when I see fans.
Hold on, I can attempt to adjust. Is that better?
Yes. A window is a far more stationary object. A little more to your left.
Well, hold on. There we go.
All right. Sorry about that.
No, it's fine. It's just, I mean, if it's going to be a problem, I can just turn the camera off. So.
All right. The legend of what Gothic was and could be is gaining steam from what I can see. It feels way fresher than it did. In Europe, the goth scene is attracting a young audience. I screwed that one up. In Europe, the goth scene is attracting a younger audience. Here, the scene is healthy. There's always been a healthy interest in this type of music, so it is still going strong, especially in Germany. Don't forget that the Gothic scene is where people can express themselves, so it will always have an appeal to audiences, says Ronnie Mourning, frontman for veteran Dutch group Clan of Zymox. Germany also boasts the largest goth music festival in the world, with the Wave Gothic Treffen, which features 20,000 people and 200 artists a year, spanning subgenres such as dark ambient, neoclassical, and post-punk. The 2014 installment took place June 6th and 9th in Leipzig and featured approximately 250 artists. In Europe, electronic bands took over a prominent part of the dark music scene within the last few years, says Cornelius Brach, spokesperson for Wave Gothic Treffen. However, traditional goth plays an important role. You still have a lot of parties where such music is played more than any other stuff, and there is a growing number of newer bands whose music clearly stands in the tradition of the old goth, and people still want to see the old heroes. While the music remains dark and brooding, the outlook for the continued evolution of goth is bright. Now you have all these 18 and 19-year-old kids playing music that is inspired by what they think the sounds and moods of music they've heard their older brothers play, and they are creating a whole style of music that could be called a post-goth new evolution, says Harris. I think that's a laudable thing. At the end of the 80s, goth didn't die. It just evolved into a new format. A lot of scenes from the 80s have gone by the wayside, but goth has been very lucky to have persevered and is still a major force in musical history, whether people like it or not.
And Salon.com reported, goth.
Whoa, you're in a cave. You're in a cave. You're in a cave.
Oh, well, I was going to say about what you just said, what you were just talking about, Jack. I think as far as the discussion about the fact that a lot of things have become more of a subculture than specifying subcultures, I think that's something that's definitely becoming more common, because I think a lot of subcultures have just started to come together because, I mean, we all have very similar tastes, and you could be a goth, but that's usually just not the only thing you are, and I think it's really great that the subcultures are starting to become more accepting of the fact that you can be a goth and this, and you can be a geek and a goth, or this and a goth, or that and a goth, and I think that's something that's really great. I mean, in the words of a friend of mine, all the freaks should stick together. So.
Yeah, and in a way that ties on the things that I have said previously, in that, Collie, you're causing echo, I think. I can't talk if I'm constantly being echo. No, it's Joanna, actually. Sorry about that.
What do you mean?
I can hear myself through you, Joanna. It's you.
Okay. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'll get headphones.
Yeah, I have headphones.
No, you're all. But actually, yeah, it's Joanna. We can hear you, Collie, and me through Joanna. That shows it was her last week.
Yeah, I was going to say I can hear you echoing and myself echoing, but we both have headphones.
Well, not to stop, but if you notice, whenever we talk, after we're done, watch what happens. Did you see it?
Yeah.
Yeah, look at Joanna's picture right as I'm done talking. Remember that pictures only come up if they're making enough sound for it to be picked up.
Yeah, it only comes up when you're talking.
And yet we know Joanna's not in the room. So that tells us where that goes from.
Because I made sure to have headphones on and everything, so.
See how after you're done talking, Joanna's image appears?
Okay, can you still hear yourself? Because I got headphones in.
No, we
Well,
can't.
that's it right now. No, it's
Okay.
fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, we were running tests while you were gone because we would talk, and after we were done talking, even though you weren't in the room, your picture would come up with the audio pulses on it, the audio pulses would be in exact time with the echo.
That's fine. I've got my headphones in.
Okay. So, okay.
And Salon.com
No,
reported.
wait. Remember, I was in the middle of a comment.
Oh, you guys are still talking.
Yeah. So, to get my... yeah, I agree. As I've said on the show before, since I was raised goth, since I was raised as a goth, I never viewed it as, oh, I had to be just this one thing. No, it is, I'm a goth. I can be a goth and like Brown. I can be a goth and like Gears. I can be a goth and like comic books. I can be a goth and like ballet. That does not make me not goth. It makes me a goth who likes ballet. It makes me a goth who likes comic books. It makes me a goth who likes Brown or a goth who likes Gears. You know what I mean? And so that's always how I have viewed it. I've never viewed it as, oh, well, if you like Brown Gears, you're a steampunk. No, I am not. I'm absolutely not a steampunk. I'm a goth who happens to like machinery. You know what I mean? And so that's how I've always viewed it. So I definitely agree that you can be a goth and like anything you want. I mean, of course, you know, obviously you still have to have some semblance of gothness, but I mean, in a way that definition changes as different generations are born, because as gothic parents have gothic children, and those children have gothic grandchildren. I mean, at that point, we are a culture, kind of like the Jews are a culture. We are a culture, kind of like how I'll wait till you're done sneezing. Well, anyway, we are a culture, you know, just like how Jews are a culture, and so, you know, as we become an actual full-fledged culture, we're not a subculture anymore. Since I am a child of Goths, I am a part of a culture, not a subculture, and as a culture, just as you can get Jews or Asians or blacks who like all sorts of things, who like the color brown, who like, you know, who like ballet. You can also get a goth who likes those things, and that does not make us not goth. So I absolutely agree with you, Lena.
I agree as well. I like how the article was summed up and put together, because as I was evolving as a goth, growing up, it was people always saying, you have to only like Susie and the Banshees and Joy Division and The Cure, etc. And then over the past 4 years, I just, you know, quit getting so subconscious about what I put on Facebook and said, I don't care if that person knows that I'm a goth that likes Shakira or a goth that likes Emily Autumn. I'm still what I am no matter what I like.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree. In fact, and I don't mind saying this on the show, I let everyone know this, and that is one of my guilty pleasures is I absolutely love the Backstreet Boys. Yes, the Backstreet Boys. Go ahead, take away my goth card. I love the Backstreet Boys.
And it was just like watching people, different goths and friends and everything, talking about how there's some form of elitism in the culture because people believe that we should be a subculture rather than just a culture. People don't go around going, you're Polish, you can only listen to Polish music, or you're in Arizona, you can only like hot weather.
Yeah.
It's just, as you grow up and as you raise your own children in the Gothic culture, you still have that strong root in the background, but there isn't a rule that says you can only like certain things and you can't like other things. And I like to see that it's becoming more accepted, as well as different people just stemming out and going, I can like that without having to get the approval of some goth god. I think she's muted, by the way.
Oh, she is. She
I'm
definitely
here.
muted.
Okay.
I muted myself because I've been sneezing.
Did you want to add anything lastly to what we all
Nope.
just?
Nope.
Okay. It's all yours now, Coley.
And Salon.com reported, goth culture's comeback is a win for women against the bubblegum sexuality of our pop culture landscape. There's something refreshingly defiant about goth. Many fashion trends have come and gone. Shoulder pads, red-soled heels, normcore, but there's one in particular that has been oddly persistent in goth, the black lipstick. The Elvira style, jet black hair. Goth
Now
which
I'm going to
was
start.
born.
Oh, stop, Coley. Yeah. As a Mrs. Hook, I'm wondering if it would be better for Lena to actually read it.
I don't have it.
I know you don't, but
I can go downstairs to get it. That's fine. That's not a problem.
I don't know. It sounds more exciting for Lena to read. What do you think, Coley?
Yeah,
I
that
think
would
it's some.
work. But
I think I'll
then
mock
we'd
it if I
have to,
read
like,
it.
reorganize it all.
What? That was to Coley. What'd you say, Coley?
I just said we'd kind of have to reorganize it and pause it and everything, which we've been doing kind of, but...
You know, I don't know. To me, because it's talking about women, and although you are a woman, it seems that more like as if.
Because I'm such a hardcore feminist.
Yes, it seems like something like that Lane might have more. I know she could always come on you, but also if it has a your reading of it, Coley, your reading of it was not.
That's fine. I can bring it up.
Okay.
Hold on.
Coley,
Hang on 2 seconds.
you were fumbling the words very badly too.
Okay.
Yeah, you were. You were just getting the words were being fumbled a lot.
Okay. I've got it up.
Okay. Sorry about that,
Okay,
Coley.
so
I was only fumbling because I was holding in my sneeze pretty much the whole time.
so
Okay,
you're
well,
having the same issues I am, it sounds like.
Yep.
All right. And Salon.com reported, goth culture's comeback is a win for women. Ugh. Against the bubblegum sexuality of our pop culture landscape, there's something refreshingly defiant about goth. Many fashion trends have come and gone. Shoulder pads, red-soled heels, normcore, but there's one in particular that has been oddly persistent. Goth. The black lipstick. The Elvira-style jet black hair, though Elvira didn't actually wear black lipstick, which was goth, which was born in the early 80s from music like Joy Division, Bauhaus, The Cure, and Susie and the Banshees. Embraces everything black and everything Victorian, finding gloomy inspiration in the darker side of life. As the fashion historian Valerie Steele wrote in Gothic Dark Glamour, it is not just a term that describes something, such as a Gothic cathedral. It is almost inevitably a term of abuse, implying that something is dark, barbarous, gloomy, and macabre. And yet Goth is currently enjoying a cultural moment in the sun. This year's World Goth Day on May 22nd, celebrates goth in its own grim way as a statement of refreshing iconoclasm for women in particular. Edgy female musicians have been embracing goth for decades. Stevie Nicks has been rocking gothy black silk scarves and capes since singing Rhiannon. Angelina Jolie outed goth at the Oscars, and Helena Bonham Carter, Johnny Depp, and Tim Burton have turned out dozens of gothic-style films. But especially in today's kitschily oversexed pop culture landscape ruled by the kind of teddy bear antics and bubblegum sensuality that can send head-scratching messages to young people, there's something appealing about the bold aesthetic defiance of goth. In watching Beetlejuice, you can be inspired by Winona Ryder's ebony-haired, white-skinned Lydia Deetz. She was a perfectly unhappy goth, empathetic to dead people, patient with her awful parents, showing a sweet vulnerability through her black, lacy weirdness. Her key line in that movie encouraged girls and women to embrace the inner idiosyncrasies by declaring, "I myself am strange and unusual." Winona Ryder's Lydia Deetz and Ryder herself became the goth it girl for a while, coming out of the closet in a way with this message. It's okay to be bleak, it's okay to be weird. Some of the most trailblazing fictional women in the history of television were goth. Yes, goth mom Lily Munster's jokes revolved around the Munsters being normal when everyone else was different. And she always managed to argue with Herman about the role of the women in the house. Patricia Adams was a striking feminist, especially for for 1964 when her television counterparts had zero defining attributes outside of being a housewife. She and her husband Gomez were portrayed as having incredibly romantic marriage. They were sexual, and sometimes overtly, they were equal. They had sword fights in the living room. As Charles Addams, the New York Times cartoonist who created the Addams family, said about Morticia, normal is an illusion. What is normal for the spider is chaos for the fly. This may be why goth has been such an attraction to women. Within normative culture, women are expected to smile, to look happy, to seem bouncy and terrific and affable. Goth, even in the most simplistic way, is an escape from the norm. In fact, when Haley Krischer of Salon.com's 5-year-old daughter said, "Lydia Dietz is my favorite character, Mommy," Haley Krischer thought, "I'm glad, because she's a true original. She openly embraces darkness despite being an outcast." The indie spirit of goth culture might be a reason Mattel is finding some enormous success with the Monster High dolls, which industry insiders have deemed goth Barbie. With names like Draculaura, Frankie Stein, and Spectra Vondergeist, Kathy Klein, in charge of marketing for Mattel's Girls, told NPR about the dolls. The message about the brand is really to celebrate your own freaky flaws, especially as bullying has become such a hot topic. This is why it's too bad that Mattel allowed Monster High dolls to inherit Barbie's problems. Not enough diversity, body image issues, the Monster High dolls, and healthily thin figures to our page from the Thinspo Diary, and materialistic. 3 of the main characters have one main hobby, shopping. Yet still, the freaky dolls have become a $3 billion brand in just 3 years. Maybe bleak is the new normal after all, and we can only hope goth has a claw in making this world a little more accepting as well as darker. I'm going to openly say, I do feel this is gothic news, but I don't completely agree with the Salon.com article, simply because, there is misogyny within the gothic subculture. Whenever you have 2 genders, you always have people bring bigotry in regardless. But my biggest issue with this article is that whenever you're dealing with celebrities who are images, celebrities are images. They're people who portray an image. So when they take on a gothic image, I don't view it as being a gothic image. I view it as having a noir image. So, because that's really how I view it, because people who are goth can be other things, but they're usually always goth. But celebrities kind of jump in every few years and be like, hey, look at me, I'm totally kind of dark and gothy. And I don't agree with that, because, they'll wear black lipstick for a year on tour, and then they'll go back to what they did before. So I don't completely agree with it, but I do see where it's coming from.
Well, yeah, but also let's try and focus on the other message of the article, because if you notice, that message wasn't so overt in it, really. And here's a better question. I'm actually very curious what you think on this, Linda, and that is, but do you think that the Gothic culture and the Gothic mindset is better for women than normative American mainstream culture?
Well, I've always felt it depends on the person, because as far as normative mainstream American culture goes, we have this ideal that America has this Murica attitude, but I've lived in 3 very different places in the country in large amounts of time. I grew up in Ohio, spent the first 13 years of my life living there, and half of that I went to Catholic school. Then I moved from a very Catholic city of Toledo, Ohio, to a very Mormon city of Salt Lake City, and now I live in Phoenix. So, none of these places have really anything in common, but they're all part of America. And they're all very diverse. They all have, depending on the cultures there, the religious, I don't really view that America, I do think that our popular culture and our media has an aspect and has an ideal that they try to push on our society. But I think when you put all that away, people are usually smarter than that. I think it's just the loudest people that come off not as intelligent, and they're the ones you hear. So
then perhaps I should rephrase my question, and that is, what do you think of the mainstream portrayal of women versus the Gothic portrayal of women?
Yes, I think it's good. I think it depends on. I think a lot of the Gothic ideals, as far as you don't usually have. I agree to a certain extent that I think Goths, as a whole, tend to be more respectful of of gender. I think it's just something that tends to be more androgynous, so it's not really something that's addressed. Where versus, like, you know, let me use an example. If I go to a goth club, no one's going to come up behind me and start grinding on me without my permission and put their hands down my skirt like they do at any other type of club. Actually, that has happened to me once at a goth club, and it was a guy who was he was a tourist who was in the club, you know, a goth tourist, someone flumming at the goth club, who was there to try to hook up with a freaky goth chick, and I hurt him for what he did. So I think, yes, we as a culture do have a little more respect for women. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know what I really want to see? At the very end of that article, they point out about how, although the Monster High dolls are dark and beautiful and supposedly flawed, although I don't see the flaws in it, but
no.
they pointed out, except for they pointed out that the dolls have some of the worst traits of Barbie. That most of the dolls still, their favorite activity is to shop, and a lot of them are, you know, deathly thin. And yeah, I hope within the next few years, I would be really, really thrilled if Mattel would release some Monster High dolls that were, you know, of more realistic proportions, even some more rounder ones, you know, like, you know, kind of like I read a news story a few months back about how Disney was re-releasing dolls based on their villains, but Barbie doll versions, and there was a big uproar, rightfully so, that the Ursula doll was thin and modeled just like a Barbie doll. And I feel just as the people who got an uproar about that is not right, that they should have made a more thicker, more rounder doll for Ursula. These were the Disney villain glamour dolls, is portray them as beautiful women. Well, still, I think they should have made a rounder, more curvy, beautiful Ursula. And I hope to see some more rounder Monster High dolls in the future.
And I agree with what you're saying, because the other day I was looking for an Ursula doll, and I found that Barbie doll with like the blonde hair and thin body, and she had the purple face. But then I was like, okay, I'm gonna find an Ursula plush doll, and the Ursula plush doll was voluptuous. And I said, why couldn't they have just done that with the Barbie doll in the first place? Because that's what a lot of people like about her, is, or at least a lot of my feminist friends have said they like Ursula being out of the normative of any other villain, at least out of the normal body shape.
Yeah, and you know what? If you actually watch Little Mermaid, Ursula, yeah, she's round, but she's also a very sexual person. You know, she, you know, moves her backside and goes, "Don't underestimate the power of body language," you know? So that shows, something nice about Ursula is that she shows that you can be round and be sexy. And I think that is a good message to give women.
Well, I think that there's, and I get a lot of crap for this, because Jack, you know who my best friend is, and she's very, you know, big girl pride. Now, I'm a bigger girl too, but I think that you should definitely have pride in different body shapes, but I think we have to always stop and remember, big doesn't mean unhealthy, and skinny doesn't mean healthy. And so I think it doesn't necessarily come down to body shape. It comes down to the health of the individual. And, you know, like me, I mean, my doctor told me you should lose weight because it could affect your health, and he's entirely right. And I've lost about 25 pounds in the past month. And I think that's what it comes down to. My bone, I'm a very thick-boned individual. I'm Middle Eastern, and I have very thick bones, like most Middle Eastern women do. And so no matter how skinny I get, I will never be a size 4. I will probably never be smaller than a size 12 or a 10, and that's a large. So, you know, and that could be me underweight. So I have to acknowledge the fact that I could be as skinny as I can and never fit into those smaller sizes, but that's okay because that's just my body type. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's something that we need to acknowledge. You don't necessarily have to have girls who are incredibly overweight or incredibly skinny. I think you just have to have an understanding that big doesn't always mean unhealthy, and skinny doesn't always mean healthy. The health of a person is more important than their body type, than their size.
Yeah, and and I wasn't saying that I would like to see all the monster idols as fat or anything.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
I would like to see some thin, some round, some in the middle. Diversity. Yeah. Diversity is a beautiful thing to teach children, young girls and young boys, that it is beautiful to have a diverse world of people of all different types, both physical types and psychological types and stylistic types.
Yeah. No, I agree with you. So.
Yeah, it's kind of like going back to this doll topic where I never grew up on Barbie dolls because my parents wouldn't set foot in Walmart and didn't think that I should have a Barbie doll because none of them looked like me. And in the past couple of years, they've come out with Barbie dolls with brown skin and afros, and my friends are all getting them, and they're like, would you ever buy your kid a Barbie doll? It's like, I didn't grow up on them. I don't know why I should get them. But now that they're presenting diversity in coming out with dolls for Gothic godmothers, as well as these, as well as diverse dolls for Asians and African Americans. I just like seeing that they've stemmed from the skinny image and the Caucasian image to stem a wide diversity of cultures and a wide diversity of body type. And as Jack was saying, it would be nice to have an even mixture instead of just go, we're starting this little by little. I'd like to kind of be hit by it instead of just, oh, we'll do it because you told me to.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I had Barbies as a child too, but I didn't really play with them. I would do things like dip them in water and say that I was performing like the water test because they're witches. Like, I was weird like that. So I feel like you can have fun with Barbies, but it doesn't have to be the normal type of fun. Yeah. So
I'm practicing dyeing their hair for cosmetic school.
She's getting burned. She's getting burned at the stake. She turned someone into a newt. So.
And I found something really cool last year at Dollar General. So you know how there are Barbie dolls, and then there are little knockoff Barbies that you find for cheap, right? Well, I went to Dollar General, and I found a knockoff Monster High doll type Barbie for cheap. So this knockoff Monster High, I just used. So this knockoff Monster High doll, it had pale white skin, a beautiful black dress, and beautiful long black hair. It had no stitches and no gills and no fangs of any kind, just pale skin and dark hair and a dark dress. And instead of being called Monster High, because it was clearly not Monster High, here's literally what it was called. It was called Goth Girl. I thought it was brilliant. Yes, and they had 3 different varieties there. They had the one in the black dress with the black hair. Then they had one in a black and red Victorian gown with black hair. And they had another one in another beautiful gown. I think it was green or something. And she had white hair. And it was just brilliant. And they were called Goth Girl. And I was like, yes! So I bought all 3. Now that is a great Barbie.
And a great bargain. I mean, like the stuff you find at Dollar Tree and Dollar General in October. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. This wasn't October. This was like July. Yeah, it's just because of it was because of how well the Monster High dolls are doing. They decided to do a knockoff, cheap form of the Monster High dolls. But instead of having to be monsters, they have to be actual, realistic goth girls. And I just thought it was absolutely brilliant.
I think it's Joanna's turn.
What's the next story? Is it my turn?
Labor.
Okay. Slave labor. Oh, thank you. This week, it was announced that after 28 years... Oh, sorry. I thought it'd be the other one. No. Oh, I thought Neil Gaiman was before that. Sorry. After 28 years, Slave Labor Graphics, the independent comic book publisher that has brought us such woeful goth titles as Gloom Cookie, Johnny the Hold on, the cat just walked by. Sorry about that. Let me start over. After 28 years, Slave Labor Graphics, the independent comic book publisher that has brought us such woeful goth titles as Gloom Cookie, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, Lenore, and the comic continuation of the 1990s cartoon Gargoyles, is in danger of shutting down. Having weathered through 3 recessions and market turndowns too numerous to count, Slave Labor Graphics has long maintained an even keel through turbulent times, says founder Dan Votto. However, the past few years, a perfect storm of bad luck, bad economy, and yes, bad decisions have left the company in a terrible financial footing. To help counter this, the owner has started a GoFundMe campaign at GoFundMe.com. You can find them under Slave Labor Graphics at GoFundMe.com. If any of our listeners want to show their support. Now, we here at the Morning Show, we've all read and enjoyed releases of Slave Labor Graphics, and hopefully, unlike many of their releases, this ending will be a happy one, and we will keep our listeners updated on this.
Yeah, I've read several Slave Labor Graphics comic books, including Gloom Cookie, although actually my favorite Slave Labor Graphics comic book is the continuation of Gargoyles, because I was and am a huge fan of Disney's Gargoyles.
You know, I remember as a child thinking, Lexington doesn't seem to really like girls. And then in the comic they revealed him as homosexual, and I remember thinking, I can't believe, and you look back on it in the show and you're like, it makes sense, because he really, you know, it seemed like he kind of, like when he was around what few female gargoyles he was, it felt forced. And so I'm really glad, like, they kind of put that story in there, because you're taking a character that so many people grew up on and just making it okay. You know, just saying, like, there's nothing wrong. And I love that they do that, because I feel like it's something, you know, these were Disney characters, and they aren't anymore. They've been, you know, Slave Labor Graphics owns the copyrights to them now. And I feel that that's something that, I feel that Disney probably wouldn't have been courageous to do it, wouldn't have been courageous enough to do it, but I'm glad that the characters, the writer still was willing to take his characters there, even though they were once a trademark of Disney.
Yeah, and you know what? Actually, the writer for Slave Labor Graphics Gargoyles is the actual guy who created Disney's Gargoyles.
Oh, yeah.
The actual creator of Gargoyles is still the creator of them. And I also really love the fact that he moved them forward. I also really like the fact that he moved them forward and made the stories actual adults stories, because the audience that watched it whenever they were young, like myself, are now in our 30s, and so we are adults, and so we deserve adult-aimed versions of those characters. And that is one of the great things, is that in the comics, Goliath and Eliza tried to actually have a real relationship. It didn't work out due to various factors, you know, and it's far more adult and realistic, and really what the fans of the cartoon now as adults deserve.
Well, and I think one of the interesting things about this cartoon, of where they've kind of taken it is, I completely lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. Never mind. Let's move on to the next story. I forgot what I was going to say.
Wait, then I'm going to close up this story if you don't mind.
Okay, that's fine.
And so, yeah, you know, we all here at the Morning Show really hope that Slave Labor Graphics is able to continue. So please, if you love their comics, or if you love comic books in general, go to GoFundMe.com, find Slave Labor Graphics, and support them. Also, in comic book news, recently in Uncanny X-Men issue 24, which ties into their crossover Original Sin, Dazzler, who has been sporting the disco look since her creation in the 1970s, has finally gotten an update. And Marvel, who has been teasing a dramatic change for Dazzler for some time, has decided her new look shall be that of a gothic rocker. Any of you guys want to comment?
No, I'm good.
How about you, Colin?
I'm fine, even though it's interesting to hear what the X-Men are doing. And
Okay, then I'll add a final sentence of my thoughts on it, okay? All right, so anyway, as I was saying.
Excuse me.
If one of you's not making a chewing sound, the other one's sneezing, or I am. Anyway. Yeah, so, that's pretty interesting because Dazzler, a character was created in the 70s, she was designed originally to appeal to the younger disco-going audience. And so, Coley, I'm getting a lot of feedback from you.
I was on mute.
No, you weren't.
I've been on mute as well, so I'm kind of having a sneezing fit over here. So
that's fun. But Coley, your image came up with the little sound things like this.
Oh, that was because I was plugging my headphones back into my computer.
Okay. Anyway, so I'm go back to what I was trying to say. Are you done playing the headphones? Because it just went.
That was me putting my microphone on my desk.
Okay, let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Yeah. Was originally designed to appeal to the young was originally designed to appeal to the young disco-going audience of the 1970s, and she has stayed that way. Although characters get redesigned in comic books all the time to be updated, Dazzler until this month actually still looked like a 70s disco singer. She was designed because they thought that younger audiences who love disco would love an X-Men character who looked like a disco singer. And it kind of almost boggles the mind that they had her looking like a disco singer for 40 years. And so she's finally getting an update. Instead of being 1970s, she's going to be 1980s, I guess, goth rocker. But yeah, it's very interesting that they chose to update her after so long, and that they chose a goth rocker. So I find it very, very interesting, and I look forward to seeing how this changes the personality of that character as the character grows and changes with this new incarnation. Your turn, Elena.
Okay.
Or Neil Gaiman.
This week it was announced that the upcoming Neil Gaiman. This week it was announced that the upcoming Neil Gaiman video game, Wayward Manor, will get an early release date of July 15th instead of the intended release of October. A puzzle adventure game set in a 1920s Victorian pastoral Gothic estate, the game focuses on a ghost and the colorful family who invade his home while he tries to rest in peace. Now, as the ghost, the player must find inventive ways to scare the people away. All the while learning about the intended victims, you even learned about how the ghost died and his afterlife. Now, the game came to fruition last year after the success of a crowdfunding campaign, and Neil Gaiman being the husband of Amanda Palmer, I'm not particularly surprised. She is always championing crowdfunding. Now, it is Gaiman's first foray into video games, and apparently he does some voice acting in it as well. It will be available to download on Steam. So, which I'm sure most people know what Steam is. It's pretty much the most popular video game download website in the world. But it will be available download there on July 15th. And other news related to Neil Gaiman, American Gods is also his very popular novel. American Gods is also being made into a TV show for the movie channel Stars, which I'm very much looking forward to as well. So,
I'm just going below my nose.
Is it Callie? Callie, are you next?
No, I'm next. I just had to blow my nose.
Okay.
I've been holding that in since we started.
Okay.
Sorry about that. And now it's me, then it's Coley next. This weekend, the 17th annual Labyrinth of Jareth Masquerade Ball is underway in Los Angeles, California. The ball, modeled after the Venetian masquerade dream sequence of the popular Jim Henson movie Labyrinth, was started in 1993 by the art studio Cypher. It has grown more fantastical each year, offering dancing performances and delicious feasts. Masks and costumes are required to attend, and many of the attendees actually spend the entire year making their own lavish costumes for the event. While making a costume is not required, you can rent one. This remains a ticket many Labyrinth fans would happily trade their baby brothers for.
The Metropolitan Museum of Art's Costume Institute is hosting a fall exhibition for the first time in 7 years, and it will be a decidedly somber affair. Announced today, this show focuses on Victorian and Edwardian mourning fashions. Death Becomes Her, a century of mourning attire, will mostly use examples from the Met's own collection to show the dark dress of the 19th and early 20th centuries and its influence on high fashion.
My turn?
Yeah.
Now, next weekend, the 5th annual Southern Gothic Festival will be taking place in New Orleans. Sponsored by Carpe Nocturne magazine, it will be featuring performances by Sound of Lost Optimism, DJ Tarnish, and an art exhibit at St. Joe's Loft. There will also be dark vendors from all over the country and much, much more. Also going on this month, there are 2 belly dancing festivals. There's the San Diego Semeta Festival in about 2 weeks, and then there's the Maryland Belly Dance Convention. So, and these are just a couple of the belly dancing festivals that are going to be going on for the next 6 months, since I know so many, like me, there are a lot of goths out there that just love to get on the floor and belly dance, love to go out on the dance floor, belly dance at the goth club. So, you know, as more of these pop up, of course, hopefully, you know, we'll hopefully keep you updated on them, and that way, if it's available, you can put on some of your darker finery and hit the belly dancing convention.
And remember, belly dancing is not just for women. There are also male belly dancers. So don't be afraid to go out there and do a little penis dancing.
Or dance your male belly.
Your beer belly? Oh. In upcoming music news, Pierre Murphy's tour dates for this week. In music news, Pierre Murphy's tour dates for this week. I'm getting all sorts of sounds from all of you. I heard it, from Lena, and then little footsteps from Colin.
No, that was Lena. I was
Sorry,
cutting the sound up.
I'm just trying to clear my throat. Sorry, I'll make sure to mute it next time that happens.
In music news, Pierre Murphy's tour dates for this upcoming week are Saturday, July 5th in Los Angeles, California at the Fonda, Wednesday, July 9th in Mexico City, Mexico at the Metropolitan, and Friday, July the 11th in Guadalajara, Mexico at Teatro Estudio Cabaret.
You're up, Joanna.
Lena.
Okay, sorry about that. New Model Army will also be performing Friday, July 4th tonight at South and Chimeries. I hope I'm saying that right. And then Saturday the 5th at Sonisphere Festival. Both will be taking place in the United Kingdom.
At Ego Likeness with Noir and Stoneburner, DJ Tom Shear from Assemblage 23 will be performing today in Springfield, Virginia at the Empire. Saturday, Ego Likeness will also perform with Stoneburner, Stephen DJ, and Shadowland in Lancaster, Pennsylvania at the Chameleon.
All right. So now, of course, is where the music goes. That music. That music. It makes me so hungry, and I thirst for many things. So we shall share some more recipes from our ghoulish Gothic griddle. Tonight, I feel the urge for some meat, which I shall satisfy with Goth olive loaf. To make this monstrosity, you shall need 3 pounds black, silky chicken. They have black skin and bones. 1 pound black Angus beef, a black bull. 1 pound goat meat, freshly sacrificed at the slaughter. 5 teaspoons black sea salt. Even our salt is black. 1 teaspoon Kir number 1. You can't make a Goth olive loaf without the Kir. 2 cups Kalamata olives stuffed with red peppers. You will likely have to stuff them yourselves. Go stuff yourselves as we give you these evil eyes. 1½ cups non-fat dry milk and 2½ tablespoons red onion. Cut fresh so you can cry like a mopey Goth. 1 tablespoon brown sugar, 1 tablespoon cacao nibs, 1½ tablespoon paprika, and 2½ teaspoons sodium phosphate. Sounds like we are in a laboratory now. 3 3/4 teaspoons black pepper, and 1 3/4 teaspoon black garlic. Maybe the vampires will like that garlic. 3/4 teaspoon celery seed, 1 teaspoon coriander, 1 teaspoon cardamom, and ½ teaspoon nutmeg. Cut the meats to hide the body and chill them to 38 degrees Fahrenheit, like a corpse. Grind the meat with salt, Kir number 1. The Kir has always been number 1. Onion, sugar, cacao, paprika, sodium phosphates, doing experiments on the Kir. Pepper, garlic, celery seed, coriander, cardamom, and nutmeg with ½ cup of ice water. Torture the Kir through a 3/16-inch meat grinding plate and refrigerate for 1 hour. Oh, you are more evil than I thought. Emulsify to 58 degrees Fahrenheit in a food processor or chopper. Oh, the humanity. Coat olives with a little of the non-fat dry milk. It can be soy milk to aid in binding to the paste. I always knew the Kir were both pasty and tasty. Gently fold in the olives and distribute them evenly throughout the paste. Stuff the paste into a loaf pan or 4½ inch casings. If you are using a bread pan, line the pan with enough cling wrap to cover over the top of the loaf. Use waterproof casings if cooking in water. Boil them. Cooking can be done in water or a smoker oven. No smoke! At 180 degrees Fahrenheit. Remove when internal temperature is 150 degrees Fahrenheit, and dine upon your Goth olive loaf.
It sounds to die for. And to go with it, we shall have a little bat bite.
We can't hear you. You just went away after the to die for.
It sounds to die for. And to go with it, we shall have a little bat bite. To concoct this tale, you shall need 2 shots of white rum,
Or you could use black rum.
2 shots of cranberry juice,
Some grenadine would be nice too.
and 1 shot creme de framboise liqueur, 1/2 shot of lime juice,
You vanished with the word lime juice.
1 shot creme de framboise liqueur, 1/2 shot of lime juice. Shake well with ice and strain it into a glass. Slice a strawberry so the top is off.
Off with its head.
And it's cut in half.
Oh, the agony.
Skewer the strawberry slice.
And I thought Jack liked torture.
And a bat cut out onto a toothpick and rest across the glass.
Now, hold on. That sounds delightful, and for a devilish dessert, we shall have skull cherry pie. Of course, it is the 4th of July here in the United States, so if you want to go the route that we are as American as apple pie, you can substitute the filling for apple. Now, you will need 2
But
cans of...
wait a moment here. Didn't George Washington cut down a cherry tree? And so wouldn't cherry also represent the United States because of our founding father?
As long as they're black cherries.
Ooh, that'd be delicious.
Or you could go red, white, and blue and have the blackberries and the cherries and the apples.
Or a blueberry.
Yes. Now, for this recipe, you will need 2 cans of cherry pie filling, a jar of maraschino cherries, about 4 pounds of pie dough. You obviously can go out and buy the pie crust if you need to, and 1 large skull-shaped cookie cutter. I have about 6 of these at home. I get them at the dollar store every Halloween, so hopefully you guys have them. You should. Any self-respecting goth baker should have a skull cookie cutter, personally. Now, take the skull cookie cutter and stamp out 13 skulls. Ladle onto each some cherry pie filling. Place them on top of the cherry pie filling covered ones, and joining the top dough to the bottom at the edges with pressure and water. Huh?
You skipped time to stamp out 13 more skulls.
Oh, yeah, sorry, let me start over. Take the skull cookie cutter and stamp out 13 skulls. Ladle onto each some cherry pie filling. Now stamp 13 more skulls, making sure to cut out eyes and nose holes. Place them on top of the cherry pie filling covered ones, joining the top dough to the bottom of the edges and with water and pressure. Now, you add a maraschino cherry into each eye hole so you got some nice bloody eyes going on. And add more dough to each to form the brow, the teeth, and any other features you wish to add. I like to do things like, arrows through skulls and stuff like that.
Well,
and then bake in the oven at... Huh?
Or you could add horns to the skulls.
Ooh, that's true. Or fangs in the teeth. Now, bake in the oven at 400 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes or until golden brown.
Mmm.
Exquisite.
Am I doing the review now?
Yeah, product review.
Oh, huh?
Yes, you are.
Okay, now, about a month ago, Disney released a live-action reimagining of Sleeping Beauty.
Whoa.
No,
I thought we were at the
No, you're doing the product review.
Oh, the product review. Oh, sorry. I thought I was doing the entertainment review. Okay, sorry. So this week for product reviews, what we've decided to touch on is goths tend to be very naturalistic people. So, and because of that, I'm not a big fan of going out and buying the really heavy moisturizers, but because I live in the middle of the desert, I have to make sure that my skin doesn't dry too much. So what I've actually discovered in the past probably about a year is coconut oil and rice bran oil. I love coconut oil because it's very affordable and it just makes your skin so soft. It's also really good for, fine lines and wrinkles, and it's also actually also a natural sunblock, though you should still put sunblock on. Another thing I like is rice bran oil. Rice bran oil is like coconut oil on steroids, but it's really hard to find. And I live a quarter of a mile from this huge Asian market, and I can't even find it. They don't even sell it there. So it can be really difficult to find. It can be expensive when you do find it, but it's actually the main ingredient in a lot of Japanese cosmetics. So that's always really useful. So if you can find it, if it's affordable, rice bran oil is probably the better one, but coconut oil always works well too.
Can't you make it out of rice bran itself?
If you have a press, you can, because you press the oil out, but it's a very arduous process. It's tedious, it's long, and there are probably people who can do it. I'm not really in the ability to do it myself. One of the really useful things you can use brown rice for on top of that is for skin, especially since those of us who are goth tend to wear a lot of makeup, and of course we take it off at night, and sometimes it can, clog pores and other things depending on the kind you use, is if you take brown rice, because I eat brown rice all the time, I love it. You take it and you soak it in water and you mix it up until the brown rice is cloudy, and then you strain the water out, and you actually use this brown rice water as a toner. And I use it after I take all my makeup off and I wash my face, and I just wipe it all over. It always gets off any of the additional makeup I might have left on. It gets any additional dirt, any sweat, especially if I've been out at the club. You're dancing all night, and everything just kind of gets really in there. So it's really helpful. You either take like cotton balls or those little pads that you get, and you let them soak in the rice bran water for about 10 minutes. And this will keep for a few days. You can put it in the fridge, but once it starts to smell sour, throw it away because it goes bad pretty quickly. But it's still just a really great way to keep be able to take care of your skin, especially as goths, because we love our makeup. So.
I actually prefer falling asleep in my makeup, because if you've ever fallen asleep in our lovely, beautiful makeup and woken up the next morning and looked in the mirror, oh my! I look so incredible when I wake up the next day. My face is beautifully pale. Not you. Well, me, I am.
No, I look terrible.
My face gets this beautiful, beautiful pale where it's not too pale, but it's just that perfect dead tone. And the red of my eyeshadow and my lipstick are a lot more duller, but a lot more outward. And of course, the black of my eyeshadow is also, or my eyeliner is also mixed into it. And I just look like a beautifully undead creature, and I look so majestic and so gentle. And I just absolutely love how I look the next day.
I do that, and I wake up, I've got zits everywhere. Like, my skin is broken out so badly. You are lucky. I just have that much to say.
It's just women that are like that, though, since, I take midnight pictures, and then you see my whole head, and it looks like a mountain mine on top of my head.
Yeah, I sometimes think it's just women. I really do, because I know so many male goths, they fall asleep in their makeup, they're fine. Women do it, and it's like, they wake up the next morning like, oh my gosh, I have 4 zits in my skin. Oh, okay, I've got to go. I have to spend the next, 3 days fixing this. So it's just obnoxious.
So there you go. If you are a lovely gothic lady, coconut oil or rice bran, and if you're a lovely gothic man, just leave on your makeup. It'll look sexy the next day.
Yes, because as usual, nature is fair. Yeah.
Also, we do have the album review, by the way.
Okay.
Oops.
Go do that now.
For the album review, I'm actually going to hit mute and walk away. I have to go grab my inhaler, okay?
And I need to blow my brains out of my nose.
Okay, so I'll probably be away for a few minutes, but I haven't left, so... Okay.
Alright guys, sorry about that. Can you hear me fine?
Yes, we can. I'm going to go and blow my nose. You can start your review. Here, I'll do a little intro for you. And now we shall hear a review in music. Go.
Greetings, mortals and undead. It is now time to tickle your cochlea with the vibrations that enraptures the soul and amplifies the will. Today's review, we will be starting off with a good old industrial band that many industrial listeners will know. We'll be talking about God Module's new album, False Face, released just this March. God Module has been a leading industrial band since 1999, and this is their 6th album. One of the songs on here I really liked would be actually the title song, False Face. It's a pretty good song. It sounds pretty similar to Angel Spit, actually. God Module is a new God Module's new band. Let me start over. For this particular band, I will have to rate the lyrics a 5. This band includes some. This album rather includes some pretty dark lyrics. They're simple lyrics. I would say on the side of spooky. For vocal delivery, I'll give them a 7. Most of the songs on this band incorporates a lot of whispers and chants with, the typical industrial overlays of various audio clips with religious undertones. Um, some of them are pretty good. The vocal delivery sounds pretty good because it suits the mood of the particular song. But they get a 6 because, it's really just whispering. Music quality for this album. Let's give them a 8. This is pretty good industrial music. If you're into industrial, you will definitely like them, and has a very nice usage of bass and a lot of the overlays. I gotta say, there's pretty good amount of overlays in this album. Uh, just about every song here is just. Just about every song here incorporates some overlay in some form or another to just reel in that subliminal message. For danceability, this song gets an 8. And I'm telling you, for industrial, this is a really danceable album. I mean, every song on this album can be danced to. And not just, dancing like dubstep type dancing. I'm saying really dark dance. And that gives us to the rating of darkness. And of course, being God Module, they will get a pretty high score. And for darkness, they are getting an 8 out of 10. It's just really hard to find this good of industrial music that's in English, that's not German. And I would say, listeners, you really need to take a listen to this band and this album. If you have heard the band before, this album, False Face, released March 12th of this year. Let's see.
So was that the review?
Right, that's one album. I have one more.
All right.
And I apologize. I've been so busy. We kind of getting ready to go out of town, so I'm actually just coming in from working on the car.
It's fine. It's fine. Just continue.
All right. And for our next band, it is Arilla's Black God of the Hunt. Released last year, 2013. This band incorporates industrial, EBM, with metal and folk music. That's a pretty good combination there. I'm telling you, this band takes you into an entire new world. You must consume this band and listen with all of your soul. This album will take you from the Serengeti to the jungles of the Amazon into a 007 movie. It's a very good example of combinations of different styles put together to make really wicked dark music. Vocal delivery, I would say it's a pretty good example of vocal delivery in this type of music, but a lot of their songs are not in English. But even though it's not in English, I mean, this is one of those bands where you hear the songs that's not in the language that you may speak natively, but you still kind of want to repeat the lyrics, even though you may not exactly know what it means. It sounds that good. This band, it's kind of has a tribal feel to some of the songs. I would say a lot of Nordic roots, and even going down into, like I said, Amazonian or Aztec type sounding music. Music quality, very good. This is what they'll get one of the highest ratings that I will ever give a band, and it's music quality, and they get a 9 out of 10. The layering of the sounds of the different instruments with the vocal delivery just makes the music perfect. I mean, they really have kind of a trip hoppy type sound almost. As far as the beat, trip hoppy, really bass driven, but mellow and cool in a certain way. Danceability rating. Now, this album is not the type of album that you really want to take to the club, to the dance floor. This is a grooving, love-making type album, It gets you into the groove. As far as effects and mixing, they get a pretty good score on that. The effects and the mixing of the different layerings of music, that gives them a 8 out of 10. There's not really many effects. It's more of the layering of the different combinations of music. There's orchestral strings with fast guitars. They said they're a mix of metal and folk and industrial. And so there's fast guitars, but you'll have a little orchestral music in the background, violins, very sad pianos, all on top of a really rugged industrial beat. Some songs to note from this album. I'm Alive Again, a very good song. And If I Die Today. This song is one of the songs that had those really dark pianos and dark strings with deep lyrics. I'm telling you, this is the best example of mixing I have seen. Another good song to note is Unknown Dark Horizons. This song kind of reminds me of I guess you could say, there's a lot of guitars on it overlaid, and it's really fast, creepy guitars, almost like a crazy clown metal band. And I'm not talking about ICP, but more like a really sick, dark vampire Slipknot, I guess you could say. The guitars in this song will definitely twerk your ego. And that'll be it for our album reviews today. And I'm not sure how I usually end it. I guess we'll just go into the you just play a song after the last sentence then.
Yeah. I'm definitely gonna add those quite a bit because, like, for instance, did you just say ICP?
I said not like ICP.
But
I
you
was
said
saying because I mentioned that the song sounds like crazy clown metal band, and then I kind of said like not like ICP, but more like.
I'm gonna have to add some. So I don't even like any reference to any kind of crazy clowns metal bands of any sort. So
Okay.
I'm going to cut their review because it's like no, don't even acknowledge that those people exist.
Okay.
Please don't.
Well, you could cut that last part. This was just for one song I was talking about at towards the end.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to go through because, of course, I wasn't able to listen to you as you were recording it. So I'm going to go through and listen to it. But remember, send me the music that you just reviewed for both of those because I don't have that.
All right.
So you guys send those to me, before the night ends.
Okay, I got you.
All right.
Yeah, I'll have it probably right around midnight actually because I have to finish working on the car, so a little bit after midnight.
That's
that
fine.
Works.
Yeah, it works.
All right, I need to finish up. I'm gonna hand you back to Callie.
Sure. Although it's actually Lena's turn to
Yep,
speak.
hold on. I'm having a sneezing issue. Can you edit? There we go.
You know what's funny, Lena?
Well,
Yeah, Lena.
Sorry
You
about
know what's funny? Lena.
can you hear me?
Yeah,
Can you hear
know
me?
what's funny? Yes.
What?
So your
What's
nose
funny?
is what, runny? Your nose is runny, right?
Yes.
I have the opposite issue. I'm not allowed to prop my nose tonight. My nose is too dry.
The joys of living in Arizona.
Yeah, my nose is too dry tonight. If I could take a little bit of your moisture, I wouldn't have the nose problems I'm having right now.
That's a little disgusting. I'm not going to lie. You don't want any of this. Okay, all right. Now on to the entertainment reviews. Now, about a month ago, Disney released a live-action reimagined... Hold on. I don't want the paper crinkling.
Yeah, here, let me start that off, actually. I'll start
Okay, yeah,
that.
if you want to.
As our listeners know, several weeks ago, we had several reviews of Disney's Maleficent, but not all of the hosts.
Jack, you
were
cut
able
out
to
there.
review. Okay, am I back?
Sorry, you cut out really bad when you said Maleficent.
Okay. As our listeners know, several weeks ago, we reviewed Maleficent. As our listeners know, several weeks ago, we had a few of our hosts review Maleficent, but not all of us were able to see it. And hey, my other one was going real well. I hate the fact that my one that was going well cut out. Yeah, because I got the words right the first time.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay. I don't think it cut out. I think it just cut out for you, honestly.
Sorry.
Anyway. As our listeners know, a few weeks ago, we at the Mourning show reviewed It's going to take me 10 minutes to get this darn thing right. Thank you. As our listeners know, several weeks back, a few of the hosts at the Mourning show reviewed Maleficent, but not all of us were able to see it in time for that review. Well, now, some of our new hosts and I have seen Maleficent, and we will share our reviews of it. So, Lena, tell us what you thought of Disney's Maleficent.
I think some of our listeners might not be happy with what I have to say, but I stand by it nonetheless. Now, of course, this was a live-action reimagining of the 1959 animated movie Sleeping Beauty. Now, it is from the viewpoint, of course, of the villain Maleficent, and, you know, this discussion is going to have a lot to do not only with the actual movie, but of the origins of Maleficent and some of the older tales like, you know, Sleeping Beauty, Briar Rose, Little Briar Rose, all of that. Now, I'm not going to lie, I am not going to pull punches. There were only two good things about this movie. The visuals and Angelina Jolie's impersonation of Eleanor Audley, the original voice actress. I give a lot to Angelina Jolie because she pulled that voice off. I mean, Eleanor Audley also played Lady Tremaine in Cinderella. She had an amazing voice, and she was talented, and Angelina Jolie being able to do what she can do shows her talent as well. But
and not just the voice, but also the mannerisms.
Yes, I will give her for as sinister as Disney allowed Maleficent to be, Angelina Jolie did that very well. I honestly think if it weren't for her, the movie would have just been. I mean, the movie was mostly trite as far as I'm concerned, anyway. But I think she is on top of most of the visuals. There were a couple moments when I'm watching the movie and I'm like, this could be more exciting, you know. Especially the tree troll battle thing, but anyway, yeah, I mean, I think she was the saving grace in it. But you know, most of the movie was trite. Now, most of the performances were weak. It's obvious the writers were trying to make it. The writers were trying a little too hard to make the audiences like Maleficent. And the thing about a character as dark and as powerful as Maleficent is, when you give them a tragic past, they go from being a character you respect to a character you pity. And that's the thing that bothers me about it. Because I loved Maleficent because I respected her as a character. You know, all the powers of hell. I love that line. And, you know, she is such a powerful character. Why does she need a reason to use her power? And why does it have to come from the betrayal of an old lover? I mean, it's such a common trope among female villains, it's obnoxious. The one good thing they did with her in this movie was acknowledge that she was a fairy. But by acknowledging she's a fairy, you take away the need for a tragic past because fairies are naturally mischievous creatures. And I know, of course, the Victorian era kind of whitewashed them a little, kind of, romanticized them, and a lot of Americans don't really know a lot of the darker history of fairies. You know, like Sarah said in Labyrinth, I thought fairies did nice things like granting wishes, but
shows what
she knows. Yes, exactly. Now, in fact,
goblins are a type of fairy.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. I mean, all kinds. Goblin King. No, in fact, in one of the original versions of Sleeping Beauty, one of the fairy tales, Briar Rose, the three fairies that get invited actually trick the king and the queen into not inviting the dark fairy, who Maleficent is based off, to court when they present their daughter. Now, the three fairies are fully aware that the dark fairy will be offended, and it's all just one big fey joke on the king and the queen, and the humans fall for it. You know, there's also a political side to the original story, because fairy tales were the social commentary of their time. By telling stories of creatures who were able to curse and raise entire kingdoms, even though the king and the queen were supposed to be ordained by God, the common people, they were finding their voice, even if it was a fantastical one. And, the Dark Fairy's curse is very political. The curse in the original story is, on her 15th birthday, the princess will prick her finger on the needle of a spinning wheel. This will cause the entire kingdom to fall into a deep sleep, and walls of thorns will surround the kingdom for 100 years. And, from a political standpoint, that is terrible. Either they sacrifice their only heir to protect their kingdom, which calls the whole ordained by God thing into question, because, they're a monarch, or they allow their kingdom to disappear for 100 years and they commit economic suicide by losing all of their trade partners. I mean, and those were a lot of times, those were fairy curses. That's what fairy curses did. They hit you right where it hurt the most. And because, they're very cunning creatures, this story, regardless of how fantastical and childish it may seem to us, it's very multi-layered. So the fact that Disney took such a mischievous and cunning creature and turned it into a woman scorned is kind of insulting. And then there's, of course, the fact that after she's been scorned by the king, she finds the love of her heart by becoming a mother to someone, becoming motherly. And, I have no issues with those stories. And there are women who are like that. But the fact that Hollywood felt the need to do that, the fact that the story couldn't be told without that happening, yeah, I'm not going to go into that too much because, yeah. But, I feel like there's so much more they could have done, and they went the easiest route, and, it was just a very trope-filled route. There were so many things they could have done and still kept it friendly for 12-year-olds. But, Angelina Jolie was actually quoted as saying she wanted the character to be darker, and she had to fight to make it as dark as she did. So I'm a little worried as to how it was originally. But, that was what we got.
The character wasn't that dark. I mean, I watched it and the character was only dark for like 5 minutes.
And she didn't turn into a dragon. That's what bothered me. She didn't turn into the dragon. That was very upsetting. So. I said that upset me. It's like, no, she's supposed to turn into the dragon. But she didn't. Anyway, Jack, I know you just saw it, so what did you think of it?
I'm trying to prepare my face and nose to talk. Oh. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get the phlegm down into my nose. I wish I had one of those things I could go in my nose.
Oh, like a neti pot?
Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to get the stuff down into my nose.
Mm-hmm.
From my sinuses down into the
I'm not trying to rush it, but I gotta cut off here in a few minutes. It's after 9.
I know.
So.
Is the baby bear?
Yeah, the dust storm probably held them up for a little while, but yeah, and she sounded awfully cranky. I heard her crying when she came in. So.
Baby diagrams. Oh, anyway. Yeah, and I saw Maleficent last Sunday, and I, however, had a very different take from it than what Lena did. That being said, as you can hear me comment on, I do see the things that she says in it, but I actually rather enjoyed the film for the most part. I found it a very lovely film. Now, I'm a romantic, and not necessarily as in like lovers fall in love, but I like to see happiness, I guess you can say. I know it sounds a little weird, but I do. And I really, really enjoyed the film a lot. I felt a romantic connection between the guy who became king and Maleficent. And in a way, we were talking about Laris, and I saw within the Laris of the story, whenever he cut off her wings, he drugged her and cut off her wings. I saw that as sort of representing almost date rape. He drugged her, and then he took away something from her. He took away her honor. And so I saw a metaphor for rape there and betrayal, and I found that to be actually a very deep thing. And whenever she wanted to take off the curse and tried to take off the curse and couldn't take off the curse, I felt so much for the character there. I've been in moments like that where I have been upset at something that someone did, and I cursed them. Yes, I curse people sometimes, and then years later I felt very, very bad because what I had cursed them with actually happened, and I felt very bad about it. And so I can relate to that feeling a lot, and so I really enjoyed the film a lot. There was one thing in the film that made me go, "What did I just see?" And that was, so throughout the whole film, Maleficent is wearing the beautiful dresses that she's known for. And then she walks into the castle wearing a dress. And then all of a sudden a fight starts, and what the hell? She's wearing leather pants. I don't get that. She's wearing a dress, and bam, the fight starts.
Mistakes in editing.
What?
I said mistakes in the editing room.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, what? Where'd she get the leather pants from? Now, I can't wait till it goes on to home release, because I'm going to have to slow-mo watch that, and I hope that what happened was that whenever that net threw her to the ground, and then I hope that a knight ear stepped on her dress or else stuck a sword into it whenever the king hit her with that metal whip, and then whenever she got flung across the floor, I'm going to check to see if her dress tore off and what left was a little bit of skirting, and then underneath it were black leather leggings, because I really hope that's what happened. Otherwise, what did I just watch? So I really hope that that's just leggings underneath her dress, and that her dress got torn to just a little torn skirting. I really hope that's what happened. Otherwise, I'm very, very disappointed. If that happened, that will ruin the film for me, unless it was a dress and she was wearing leggings underneath it. That's the only way that the film won't be ruined by that for me. But other than that one moment towards then, I really, really enjoyed the film a lot.
And I've heard a lot of what you say, and a lot of people, and I'm not, like I said, I mean, she had every right to hate him. Yes, he violated, and I'm not saying that was a problem, because I agree with you. I agree totally. Something horrible happened to her. She had every right to hate the king. She did. I just feel like, from an industry standpoint, if you take the movie as a whole and look at it from a Hollywood standpoint, I feel like writing that story was an unnecessary history for the character. I feel like it's not necessarily a bad way to go. I feel it's unnecessary, and I feel it's something that happens far too often with powerful female characters, especially powerful female enemies. Like, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it's like with Tim Burton's Catwoman. Tim Burton's Catwoman versus what Catwoman was actually like in the comic books. And, much weaker character in his books, in his movie, versus, the judo-knowing Catwoman of the comic book. So, the woman scorned aspect, I've never really agreed with, never really liked. But I feel like if you don't acknowledge that, like me, because I'm going into anthropology, so I read all of that stuff into that, and I can't help it. So I feel like if I were to actually watch it again and possibly step out of myself and not deconstruct it like that, I could enjoy it. But once again, going into anthropology means that I deconstruct all those little things, and a lot of times it can ruin things for me. And I think this is one of those situations where everyone else is saying how great it was, and I'm sure if I could stop myself from doing that, I would like it too. But I'm just one of those people where I have to take it on that over-the-top level, and I hate that because I wanted to enjoy the movie. But I can't let myself enjoy it, and I kind of hate that. So
I can totally relate, because, see, I was a member of the SCA for 6 years.
Oh, really quickly, Jack, Asha is willing to do the interview if you want to do it. She will do it.
Anyway, I was a member of the SCA.
Do you still want to do it? She just wants to know if you want to do it or not.
I would be fine with doing it, yeah.
Sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Okay. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was a member of the SCA for 6 years, and because of that, I'm a bit more strict when it comes to period accuracy than most people. Now, of course, this was not a period film. This was a fantasy film, and I understand that. I get that. But that being said, if the character wears dresses at all other points in the film, and if all other female characters wear dresses at all other points in the film, and none of the female characters are wearing pants at any other point in the film, and if she's wearing dress when she goes into the castle, all of a sudden her wearing leather pants during a fight, whoa. Now a lot of people, they're like, oh, come on. But me, no, because I was in the SCA, just no. That's not okay. It's not okay. Also, just pure consistency. If they've established that all women only wear dresses, for her all of a sudden, even though it's been said that she only wears dresses too, for her all of a sudden to wear pants out of nowhere, that ruins a film for me. A lot of people are like, oh, come on. And I understand that feeling. But, again, this is a situation where
makes sense.
my closeness, that will ruin it for me. So I understand that won't ruin the film for a lot of other people. I understand for a lot of other people that's not an issue, and that for them it's a great film. And for me it was a great film too. I absolutely love it. I'm really hoping that I missed something in that quick fight scene where her skirt gets torn. Because if that is what happened, that's okay with me, because you know what? Women did wear leggings under their pants back, or leggings under their dress back then. And so that will make it okay with me. And I would like it to be okay with me because I want to enjoy that film.
Well, yeah, and I'm in the SCA as well, and I completely understand what you're saying. And it's not being, you're right. If all of the females are wearing dresses or robes or gowns, and none of them are wearing anything else, it makes sense that they never wear that unless they're going out of their way to disguise themselves or trying to draw attention, or which is usually how those situations are. When you see those types of movies, when the female characters wear pants, usually it's because they're trying to disguise themselves as a man, or hide amongst a crowd. And I completely agree with you.
Okay, so do you have anything to say on it, Paul?
No, not really, other than that we were talking about the dress turning into pants, and I agree full-heartedly that if somebody's going to enter something in a dress and then all of a sudden, boom, there's pants and you don't see how they got to it, then I don't know how to reply to that other than that I'm dumbfounded and I want to see what happened, because there's plenty of movies that say that once you get them on Blu-ray or DVD and you slow them down and you see something and nobody else saw it, and you're like, I found out the secret to the movie.
So, Lena, because your friend's not here for the interview, do you want us to record the interview and then the travel segment?
That would actually be really helpful. I can go. I can either hold on. Let me see if she wants to do it either up here or if she wants to do it downstairs through the microphone. Hold on.
All right.
I was gonna say if it's just gonna be you and Lena talking back and forth with her, it might be better to do the travel section if I'm doing the travel section, so that we don't have Lena being like, oh, the baby's crying, I can't talk, I can't provide my input about Chicago or something.
Yeah.
So would we do the interview first or the travel section last, and then worry about her being like, I can't talk during the trip, like she can't provide her input on Chicago?
If I knew it should be gone for like 5 minutes right now, I'd have you do the travel section right now.
Yeah.
That way it would save time.
Okay. You want me to do it while she's getting her?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, she's right here. You're gonna need to put this in.
Oh, never mind.
Because,
so we're ready for the interview?
Here is feedback. Yeah, because, yeah, so, and if you sneeze or cough or anything, just hit that mute button right there. Which one? The microphone button. So what you'll do is you'll hit that. Like, this brings up all of your settings. So, like, the mute button and everything. So, hit the microphone. Out of the room, mister. No meows.
No meows?
I kept having to hit mute. He wouldn't leave me alone.
Well, yeah, he wanted affection. He's a cat. He wanted affection. Therefore, you're on his time. He's a freaking cat, man.
Okay. Go ahead and say it.
Hello, everybody. I am Asha.
Okay. So, yeah, we're going to do an interview. Now, what are some of the things we're not at the interview yet? What are some of the things that you plan on talking about during this interview?
I was just under the impression that you were going to ask questions, and I was going to answer to the fullest and most witty of my ability.
Okay, it's just, it's hard for me to ask questions when I don't know anything about you, clearly. And I don't know anything, all I know is basically what Joanna has said to me. And so the interview is probably going to be pretty short and vague because she hasn't told me much, which is fine. That's fine. All right. So, and if it turns out to be not such a good interview, we'll cut from the show. That happens occasionally. Sometimes interviews don't go well. Yeah. So I hope you're okay with that.
Hey, whatever you can use is fine with me.
Yeah. And if I ever interrupt you and ask a new question in the middle of you talking, it's because you're going on in a direction that I don't think the interview needs to go in, and it's my job as the person who runs the show to make that decision. So don't feel offended or anything. It's just that's my job. Okay, I don't mean to offend you. If I had all night, I would be fine letting you go off on whatever discussion you want to for hours. That okay.
No, it's completely understandable.
Yeah. Okay. So your name, how is it pronounced?
Asha, like Asha.
Okay. I'm just putting that in for my own notes.
No problem.
All right. So I'm going to start in a moment. So. Now we shall put on our gloves and grab our scalpels, for it's time for a dissection, where we slice into someone and see what makes them tick. The person on the cutting table tonight is Asha. Hello, Asha.
Hello, how are you?
Well, it's cutting open you, not me. So, Lena has told me that you consider yourself a goth and that you are also a parent to a small little one.
Yes, my particular spawn is 2 years old, and yeah, I guess I would consider myself part of the goth alternative, darkly leaning culture.
So, tell us a little bit about what is like being a parent within the dark cultures and some of the wonderful things that you do as a parent that might be different from what some other parents in other cultures may do.
I think the thing that's a little bit more different, that is more goth, is just in the fact of how I tend to have the way I bond with my daughter is through more creative means. Like, we don't really go to a football game or a baseball game. We don't do Little League. But we do belly dance. She helps me with crafts. She will spend hours going through all of my velvets and laces, and she does everything she can to get her little hands on, my crafting scissors, which is not the best of things. But my relationship with her is much more creative, and that's how we bond.
And that's also how little children learn, too.
Generally, yeah. And she's quick. She's quick and she's feisty, and I can definitely tell that she has spirit, shall we say? But yes, it's always a challenge because you have to sometimes be a little more careful, because the things that you might find perfectly acceptable are things that other parents would not find acceptable. And while you want to be like, this is my kid, I'll do what I want, you have to remember that there's always someone who could potentially call CPS in like 2.5 seconds if they think you're doing something crazy like sacrificing a cat. So sometimes you have to be a little more reserved in what you say, what you wear, and what you do. Because you have to
Yes,
realize it's no longer
with that
just you,
myself.
it's your kid too.
Yes, I've dealt with that myself. I have babysitted several children, and I one time bought for one of the girls who I was babysitting, a 6-year-old. I bought her a children's book, literally a children's book, teaching the basics of anatomy and human enamel bone structure. And yet, her teacher panicked. I don't know why. It was a children's book written for little children, and
Oh,
it was teaching
yeah.
them. I don't know.
That'd be an awesome gift. I think that as more alternative thinking people, we allow ourselves to indoctrinate our children with values that are not necessarily what some people would consider kid values. We seem to focus more on intelligence and bringing up creativity and intelligence. And heck, if you gave my daughter an anatomy book, I think that'd be the coolest thing in the world because, dude, she could be a doctor. She'd be Dr. Frankenstein for all I care about. If she's a doctor, woot.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, it's a comment that I made whenever the teacher yelled at my friend. I said, hey, she can become a bone specialist. I mean, she knows more about the spinal cord than some adults, Yeah, and
It's just a generational thing.
Yeah, another argument that I made with that teacher was, why should we limit children to certain books? Why should we say, oh, if a child's this age, they can only read this type of book, or if they're this age, they can only read.
That's completely foolish. To limit a child whenever they are literally vassals of unlimited potential, it is ridiculous in my mind to, I would never limit my daughter. I mean, true, there are certain things I won't let her do. I'd rather, she's 2, so she really doesn't need to get a book on, say, I don't know, syphilis. But, it's also something that if she shows an interest in her future that I would keep away from her. I believe very much that knowledge is power. It's how we communicate. And I don't believe really in limiting my child.
Yeah, and and that I also had to specify that with that teacher. And I said, look, I'm not going to have the 6-year-old read a book by the Marquis de Sade or some erotica. That's not what I mean. But I see no problem in giving a 6-year-old girl a chapter book written for 13-year-olds if she's able to read a chapter book. Why give her see spot, run spot, run, whenever she can read the boxcar children? Give her the boxcar children,
I completely agree.
And that's what I said to that teacher, because it's just so true. And you know what? So I did give that 6-year-old chapter books, and within 3 months, that 6-year-old was reading books that were rated for 13 to 14-year-olds. And so that just shows the unlimited potential, as you were talking about, that people who think like us and are more open people give these children, and that makes us have to stop and think, why are so many people within modern main culture dumb these days? I wonder.
Because I really genuinely believe that's because school in itself, well, it's an institution. At this point in time, it's more a babysitting thing than anything, but also it's geared towards the lowest common denominator. And I have noticed that alternative, gothy, hippie people, artists in general, we're very much, we use our brains in a different way that they don't necessarily understand. And that's not a bad thing, it's just different. And you need to be able to integrate both sides of the brain, and that's particularly important with a child because they need to be able to play the flute, play the cello. But also, my daughter, she will be doing karate or whatever other martial sport she so desires because I fully intend on raising a warrior princess.
I'm trying to think of the next thing to ask you.
Well, like there's so much. There's so much in parent. Well, I mean, I don't think goth parenting. I mean, the only thing with goth parenting that is different from regular parenting is this. And the biggest thing I can probably tell someone is this: pick your battles. You Because yes, if you are in an area where there is tons of kids and tons of soccer moms who are so white bread and they are freaking out, sometimes you need to rein it in. If your child is obviously being excluded because you don't fit a mold, it may not be the best time to wear your upside down pentacle or your upside down cross top. Sometimes you have to think about your child first. Sometimes you have to rein yourself in for the benefit of your offspring.
Yeah, due to my past, I actually disagree with that. What I would also suggest to people, instead of reining yourself in, is if you're in that kind of a location, please, if at all possible, move.
Well, absolutely, but sometimes you can't just move. Sometimes, like if my daughter chooses to become a cheerleader. Pardon?
Nothing, go ahead.
If my daughter chooses to become a cheerleader, I'll have to roll with it. I would be like, can't you go into art? Or something like that, but sometimes not sometimes, all the time you have to consider your child first. And if you are going to sometimes you can't move. If your daughter's like, hey, I really want to be a cheerleader, you can't move. Jack, you can't. You have to be there for them.
I wasn't talking about the child. I was talking about other people.
Oh, well, also, I don't agree with that because, cultivating relationships to like a soccer mom is not a bad thing. As soon as you can show up in all your black with your black lipstick, and sure, they're going to look at you like you're crazy. But if you can come up there with a smile and show that you are a human being, sometimes you can get the best of both worlds. Sometimes they will see you, oh, wait, you're a human.
That depends on where you live, though.
Very true. There are some places, and I come from a very Bible Belt area, and I did actually move. I left there. So sometimes, some places, if it's inundated with the religious right, sometimes you can't make that goodwill leap because it's just not worth it. But I don't think it's beyond anybody to try. I think it's important that you try first. Try 3 times. And if it doesn't work, then maybe it's time to find a better place for yourself and your children.
Yeah, like for instance, I'm probably going to cut this out of the interview, what I'm about to say, but it's true, and that is where I live, in a different part of Arizona, in our town, there are no black people. The reason is because black people get lynched here. Literally, they end up hanging from a tree. So I would highly suggest someone who's different here, maybe move. For instance, I was tortured here, and I was, in a way, kind of lynched. I lived, but I was lynched myself in a way. So if there's anyone that they're taking my daughter and tying her hands and trying to drag her from a truck, I'm sorry, but no, I'm moving. You know what I mean?
Well, that's also whenever you pull out a gun. But yeah, I'm feral when it comes to protecting my child, but I think that is more due to the fact that I'm a mother versus the fact that I'm quote-unquote a goth. I think that there is a primal need to protect your young, and that is rote. That is in our DNA. That cannot be escaped, nor should it be escaped.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah. But and as I said, this is probably not going to be in the interview, but yeah, no, I wasn't at all talking about if your child shows an interest in sports or whatever. Let's say it's a boy. If he shows interest in football, no, moving's not going to fix that. No,
I misunderstood you. I misunderstood you. I'm like, wait, you can't just move your house.
If you have a son, which not now you or I have, but if you have a son and he likes sports, you know what? Then you have a goth-born football player. That's perfectly fine. Encourage their dream. If they have a dream to play
They wear
football or
black makeup
basketball.
anyway.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you know what I mean? So, no, I wasn't at all saying that. And whenever you kind of start to say, well, you can't move away from that, Jack, I don't know if you could see on my face, but you very deeply offended me. I was like, wait a minute, what the hell are you calling me?
No,
I'm like, wait, I wasn't saying that.
We misunderstood each other.
Yeah, no, I was talking about where I live. I was tortured. People shot nail gun nails at me as I walked. Okay, and imagine being 13 and as you walk past the ag building at school, they shoot nail gun nails at you each day. Yeah,
I didn't have it that bad.
Yeah, that's what I meant.
I had the
it's like
schools.
I'd move. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I didn't have nails shot at me, but I had the school administration call my father and tell my father they should put me in a mental institution. But I didn't have physical violence upon me.
Here's another thing that happened to me, and that is whenever I was changing out for gym class one day, someone, as I was pulling the shirt off over my head, because I was changing clothing, someone grabbed the shirt while it was around my head so I couldn't see, and then a bunch of the other people in PE class grabbed the baseball bats and beat me unconscious with baseball bats. So.
No, I can totally see why you wanted to move.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's why I said what I said is, you were talking about compromising, and yes, there is a point where you do compromise, but there's also a point where no, you don't compromise. There's a point where you go, no, I am who I am, and I will not compromise for these horrible human beings. You know what I mean? There is a point where you gotta go, no. Yeah.
And so I get that, but at the same time, it's not just me or it's not just you. It's you and the child that you are protecting. So I actually would compromise until I could get out of the situation.
No, but I mean there is a point where you've compromised all you can. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And where you can't compromise any further. So, like for instance, so maybe this will open the interview, maybe it won't. But like for instance, here's something I can say, and that is, so normally whenever I am out in this town, I'm not wearing any makeup whatsoever. I'm wearing business suits, and my hair is tied back. Okay, and yet people still throw trash at me and call me, you motherfucking faggot goth, when I'm dressed in a business suit with no makeup whatsoever on.
It's because they've already pegged you, so
no,
they've already put a black mark against you.
Yeah, it's new people who I've never met before.
News travels.
Yeah.
A situation.
So you know what I mean is that there's just, it all really depends on what kind of people are around you, and stuff like that. It's just there's depending on where you live. For me, I've compromised as much as I humanly can, and there is no compromising with some people. That's.
And that I fully understand, because they're not they're not evolved that way, and they were unfortunately raised improperly. But I mean, the upside of that is this, and this goes back to the whole entire parenting thing. Because, I mean, yes, you get inundated with the hate. You get inundated with the injustices of everything. But then you pause, and you look at your child, and you know that you are raising the next generation. All those people who hurt you, while they do hurt you, and it sucks, you have literally made the next generation, and everything you do and say is going to make the next generation and the future better. And that's what gets you through the next day.
Yeah, but I absolutely agree with you that as a parent you always have to compromise in many situations, for your child, because it's not about you, it's about the child. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. Yep.
And it does suck
But
because you want to be free, but sometimes you just gotta roll with it as much as you possibly can.
yeah. So, but anyway, one of the reasons I paused the interview, though, is I think what we had recorded right before I paused the interview was really all we need for talking about parenting. That really sounded good. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I'm going to add in some of what we've said since then. But anyway, no, I want to ask more about you outside of being a parent. But Joanne
Sure.
she didn't really tell me anything about you. So I don't know anything about you. So I guess the next question. So Asha, outside of being a parent, tell us some more stuff about you.
Well, I like to consider myself very creative. I love to sew. I love to create clothing. Not always gothic clothing. I do love to dance, particularly belly dance. So I create costumes. Of course, there's cosplay and just, general awesomeness. I cross genres a lot because there's just so much beauty in the world, in the dark stuff, but also in the light stuff. That I don't like to limit myself to just one thing. And of course, going back to the parent thing, I take these things home, and then my daughter's like, "Ooh, pastel goth," and she's totally into it. And a little girl in pastel goth is the cutest thing ever. But yeah, would love to dance. My daughter dances with me. We put on YouTube videos of belly dancers, and we just shake it, shake it, shake it, and it is a great bonding experience. I We go to the library together. We read together. Old myths, like the old fairy tales. I do edit on occasion. I do not, oddly enough, though, I have a more European aspect of myself. I don't mind her seeing the more sensual things, actually, because I see that as natural. I do omit some of the nastier, violent stuff. Just for now, because, again, she's two. Because I don't think that bludgeoning someone to death with a shoe is like a natural thing per se. I find it funny as anything, but but we're gonna give her time to acclimate to that.
Yeah,
So
it's
yes,
nice. I'm
reading.
actually sort of the opposite in that. I actually, whenever I edit old fairy tales while reading them, I usually take out the more sensual stuff and I leave in, and then he cut the wolf open so
And
that the
filled his
grandma
stomach full of
resurrected.
stones.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah,
filling the wolf full
or
of
else
stones.
that Rumpelstiltskin stamped his feet so much that he got a hole ripped up and he fell into hell. I love leaving that in, actually.
Well, mine is more of the European standard. I
I
see
think mine's
things.
pretty European too, actually.
Well, I respectfully disagree. It's a very American thing to have violence, violence, violence everywhere. But sexuality, human sexuality, is taboo. However, we can, bash in all the heads we want. Whereas over in Europe, it's completely the opposite. They have full frontal nudity. They don't care. It's not a thing. But, popping somebody full of caps, that's a problem. And yeah, I don't mind my daughter seeing full frontal nudity, even a man, because again, that's an art. I do have a problem with her seeing someone bash someone's brains in. At least a two. At least
Also,
a two.
I think though, when you're talking about European, you're talking more about the more recent European. But if you notice,
True.
the Rumpelstiltskin, Horin Hoon and stamp his feet till he fell into hell. You're calling that American? I believe that was German. So I believe that would be Germany is in Europe. And so
Hey
no,
guys,
it's pretty European too. You know? So, So in a way they're both European ways of of looking at things, and it's very different because American. When I think about American things, I think of American stuff as trying to take away both of those actually from children's literature. They try to sanitize children from both things, whereas the more European one is to actually have children know of and be aware of all aspects of life, be it horrific or romantic. We can't hear anyone. Where'd you go? Ooh, I guess they had to leave.
Hey, you guys there?
Yeah, did the interview go bad?
We were just having a connection issue.
Okay.
Should be charged. Let me finish.
All right.
So, I put on music for her. So
Yeah.
you
Joe,
need the headphones here.
Joey just put on Nightmare Before Christmas for my daughter, and she's
Hey,
down there watching. It's
Tis
pretty
the
awesome.
season.
Okay.
Absolutely. No, that's perfectly fine. We're good.
Well, in case you get feedback.
All right.
So I'm gonna close the door. So.
Cool beans, man. Okay,
So is that in the washer?
Pardon?
So you're back?
I believe so.
Hi. You're a little bit more fainter side now, so you're going to have to talk closer whenever you get ready to talk.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. So just so you know, what I was saying whenever we got cut off was actually what and I'm going to use my original saying of it from earlier, but I'm just trying to get you caught up in what you missed, okay? So,
All right, no problem.
what I was saying, well, actually, whenever I hear the term, an American take on children literature and children films and stuff like that, I usually think of it as, I usually think of Americans as kind of both violent and sensual thing for children. See, you're talking about American culture being more violent than European culture in general. I'm not talking about American culture. I'm talking about American outlook on what's appropriate for children.
So you're speaking more Disney, and I'm speaking more in general.
Well, not just Disney, any American children film brand, actually. If you think about it, they try to cut out the violence and the sensual from children literature. Whereas I believe the more European view is to leave in both. So that children can see that, yes, there are violent moments of life, and yes, there are sensual moments of life. So that children, we're not, the European one, we're not depriving children of life. We're not taking away and reducing it and saying, oh no, there's always happy moments and there's never violence in life. I believe the more European take on it is that, sometimes bad things do happen and unhappy moments do happen. But that doesn't mean that life is not still good, and that doesn't mean that life is not worth living. And I believe that teaching children that actually prepares them for life better than the American approach.
It's an opinion.
What's
I don't
an
know.
opinion?
I understand what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from. But yeah, I think that I was talking about culture in general, and you're going for the more specific children's. So yeah, I think we're both right.
We
Just
were talking about children.
Pardon me?
We weren't talking about culture in general. We were talking about children.
Okay.
So there you go. I was talking about what we're talking about. Because we were talking about children books, remember?
Mm-hmm.
So we were talking about what society deems as appropriate for children.
True enough.
Yeah. Because as I was saying, Little Red Riding Hood, wasn't that a children's fairy tale?
Originally, yeah.
And wasn't it violent?
Yes. But again, like
and
you said,
wasn't it European?
yes.
Okay. That's not opinion at that point. That's fact. You just agreed. It's fact. It was that. So that's fact. It was that, and it was European. So I'm saying I don't think you were quite being accurate whenever you said Europe, the European view. You get what I mean?
Yep.
Because you just admitted that it was not American. So, see, that's not my opinion. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about my opinion. I'm talking about it's a fact. Little Red Riding Hood had that. It's a fact. Little Red Riding Hood was not American. Fact. Fact. So, you know, I'm not trying to argue. I'm just pointing out that for you to say, well, the European view. I was talking about you. You know. So
Yes, we verified that I was wrong.
I'm having trouble hearing you.
I said yes, we verified that I was wrong.
Okay. Well, not necessarily wrong. It's just you weren't noticing that aspect of the European view. By the way, have you ever read the children's book Shockhead Peter?
Hold on just 1 minute.
Okay.
I need to go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, honey. Evie's having an issue. She's got to go.
Okay.
So, in fact, Evie kind of needs to go to bed. Oh crap! Can I do my close sign off really quick?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Well, we're gonna go cry in a corner. We good?
Yeah.
All right. Sorry. It's after. It's so late. We gotta go. Bye.
I didn't get to ask her favorite music. It's okay though. There's two of you calling. Are you there, Coley? Coley.
Hello?
There you go.
Yeah,
Hi.
I'm here.
Anyway, we still need to do the travel section, don't we?
Yeah, we do. I was just wondering when the interview would end because it's 11 o'clock here, and I was like, I'm tired.
Well, as I was trying to say, Joanne didn't give me enough information to really ask enough questions.
Yeah, true. Other than that, she is a pastel goth, and that she is a parent, and that she sewed clothes for her daughter or something.
Yeah, there wasn't really much more for me to ask, and you know, and whenever someone says something that's not true, and when it's not a matter of opinion, it's a matter of fact, I am the type to correct them. You know?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and as you heard at the end there, she said she was saying, oh, it's the American way to be violent. And I said, okay, Little Red Riding Hood. Violent? Yes. Written by Germans. Right? And,
Yeah.
you know, for us, just been, that's a matter of opinion, that's a matter of opinion. I'm like, no, that's a matter of fact. It's a matter of fact, Little Red Riding Hood and Shockhead Peter, not American.
Mm-hmm. Like, I was just having this conversation while you guys were doing the interview with these other African Americans who were saying, why do you celebrate Independence Day if really we're not free? And I was like, I don't know how to counteract that argument.
I don't celebrate Independence Day personally because, ooh, imagine the unedited version of this that's going to hit YouTube once I hit stop broadcasting. We're going to have an Independence Day one that is going to actually have me talk about why I don't celebrate Independence Day. Well, hello, Americans. Here's why I don't celebrate Independence Day, and this will not be in the show, but it will be in the unedited version on YouTube. The reason why I don't celebrate Independence Day is because how this country has treated me. I renounce being American. Well, you should move. I would gladly move. Pay for my ticket. Why should I celebrate a country that imprisoned me and tortured me?
True.
I'm not freaking going to celebrate this. No. Well, you're a terrorist. Thank you. They've already declared me that. Well, you should get out of the country. Thank you. I would like to. Please. So, hello, America. Happy Independence Day. That's how I feel about Independence Day. If you don't like it, I don't care. All right, so that's not going to be in the finished version of the show.
No.
But it will be on the one that hits YouTube, and I'm okay with people knowing that about me.
Uh-huh.
But, by the way, the last question I was asking Asha, I want to ask you too. Have you ever read Chuckhead Pier?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's a great children's book. It's German, and I really highly recommend it. It's a fun read.
Okay,
After we're done doing the show, I'm going to send you a link to a stage musical version of it that was done by the goth band The Tiger Lilies. Okay? So, on to your travel segment. Or not, I don't care. Oh! Oh, let me know when you're back. Until then, the YouTubers will just have to see me. So, hello YouTube. What I just typed was I just typed Joanna, and I asked, hey, what are 3 of Asha's favorite bands? So, now Cully's back, little YouTubers. YouTuber. Cully, you here? So, people listening on YouTube, this part's going to get real boring, I guess, huh? Well, it's okay. I'll just sit here and mind my own business now. So, YouTubers, let me interview you. How you doing? Probably no one watches this enough to comment, but anyone who's watching this, comment. Tell me who you are, how you're doing. Contact information. Maybe we'll interview you. Hopefully it won't go like how this one went. You know? Where's your favorite places to travel? Well, Hangouts can record up to 8 hours, so I can wait for 8 hours. Wow, probably not 8 hours anymore. 6.5 hours. You know, YouTubers, they were upset that the Oshawa one had to end when it did because it seemed to have left on a bad foot, and I wanted it to go on a better foot, but we were having trouble finding our footing after that one point in the interview, you know. I was very curious to the rest of who Asha was and what she does. I'd love to invite her back for a second interview, and I'm sure we could have gone one if it would have been off on a better foot, but she had to go. So that's my take on how that ended. Maybe we will get her back. I don't know. Seems unlikely. I hope she's not offended. I hope we didn't upset her. Very worried about that, actually. As I'm waiting for Coley to return. Where'd she go? I don't know. Well, so you too, Buzz. I'm not waiting too long. I can tell you what Coley was going to read, but I cannot tell you what her other comments are. I cannot comment on Chicago. I've never been there. Here we go. Now we shall open the doors to the other worlds that have yet to be seen. We travel to the Windy City, Chicago, Illinois. Chicago Goth Clubs, Metro, Exit, and Neo. The LE Alternative Clothing Store. You might want to play this video at the end to go along with what I have to say. Video link. Woolly Mammoth Antiques and Oddities. International Museum of Surgical Science. Chicago Hauntings Ghost Tours. Graceland Cemetery. The Cult Bookstore. Wicker Park. Chinatown. And Chicago Lyric Opera. That is what it should be about if we can get Coley back. So enjoy that, YouTubers. We can get some other Chicagoans in another time to talk about Chicago also, though. So no worries. I might as well record my closing for the show. You've just listened to The Mourning Show. And just in case Coley cannot get back on and we have to fill out the travel section, we're signing off. Oh, there you are. You're back.
Yeah, I was gonna say, let's get this done before I fall asleep on the computer. Now we shall open the doors to other worlds that have yet to be seen. We travel to the Windy City, Chicago. Chicago is home to at least 5 goth clubs, but there are 3 that are worth mentioning. One of the main clubs located on North Clark Street is known as Neo and is the crown jewel of Chicago's goth scene since 1979. Many of Chicago's goths will find Neo enjoyable at Convergence Festival, which was held the past February, I believe, in Chicago, and was held about 4 years ago. Next year, I hope that the Convergence will travel to Seattle. If you see a row of people in black leather and punk hairstyles lined up in an alley next to an Urban Outfitters, you're at the right place. Inside, you'll find a dark room with mist and flashing laser lights and a bar that was inspired by the pavement of Lower Wacker Drive. Speaking of Wacker Drive, if you want to visit a historic cemetery as a goth, head on over to Graceland Cemetery, where there is the Getty tomb, as well as a tomb that houses Marshall Field's corpse. All of these tombs in Graceland Cemetery can range from something simplistic to something worthy of a Mexican temple. I like going to Graceland Cemetery, whether it be to carve or to rub the tombs, or to just look at the vastness of the tombs and the architecture that goes into them. They have monuments that are dedicated to architects of Chicago as well as, pardon me, as well as public figures and private eyes, from Charles Wacker to Ellen Pinkerton to Fred Bousset. While you're in Chicago, if you're a if you're interested in antiques and oddities, head on over to Woolly Mammoth Antiques and Oddities. I'm a fan of oddities, whether they be skulls or tooths or fangs. Another place that uses oddities is the Alley. The Alley is a popular alternative and gothic shop that has everything from boots to belt buckles to leather jackets. However, one secret that people may not know about is that the owner will take requests to go out and find things that guests may be interested, whether it be a petrified bat, a tooth of a saber, or an elephant tusk, or even maybe a baby tooth cast in gold. You can head on down to the Occult Bookstore in Wicker Park. You can visit Chinatown or catch an opera in English or German. My favorite opera that I went to at the Chicago Lyric Opera House was Carmen. On the bottom of the stage, you can see that they list what is being told or sung so that people who can't see as well, like myself, can understand the story. Have you been to Chicago, Jacques?
No, I have not, although I've always wanted to go. It's actually the birthplace of Convergence. Convergence 1 happened in Chicago. And I've said in previous episodes that I really love Chicago food. And so, yeah, I'd really like to go at some point in my life.
Either way, when you go, you should definitely check out Neo, followed by Metro, and then followed by Exit, which is 2 blocks from the Alley, which is more of a metal industrial feel. My favorite would probably be Neo because it has the kind of grave ambiance, kind of coffin ambiance. But either way, if you're around Chicago, check out the Alley, check out Neo, and check out the historic cemetery that is always revolved about by goths and normal people alike.
And check out the pizza!
Yes, and the pizza. The deep dish pizza.
And the
It's
stuffed
goth in
pizza,
and
too!
of itself because you dug a hole and stuffed it with the beautiful tomatoes. And you can get anything in it, including shrimp, which was my favorite as a baby bat 9-year-old.
And go Pizzeria Uno and Duo, and go to Gino's East.
Yes, out of all of them, I'd probably say Gino's is my favorite. And if you want, you can also go and check out the Dynamite Giant hot dogs up on the north side.
Yeah, the hot dogs are great.
No ketchup.
But a really
Only
big
mustard.
pickle.
Pardon me?
Okay, so I believe that's all that's left for you is for you to read your closing.
Yep. I'm feeling boo. We're signing off.
You turned on my Google thought you said hello Google now.
Hello, what is hell?
You turned on my phone. Try saying your closing again. No speaky? No speaky. Come on, speak. You go again, you're probably not going to come back, are you? Well, as I already said earlier, we're signing off. So, YouTubers, before I close this... Oh, no, I did not. so my bored YouTubers who have not been hearing me speaking, here's what you've missed. So, I asked Joanna, what are three of Asha's favorite bands? She wrote Avenue Park, The Perfect Circle, and Nine Inch Nails. I will include those in the show. Coley said, did you get my sign off? I wrote, no, I did not. She wrote, darn, it's not possible to just have our intros and endings permanently saved. Guess we will have to sign back on. I put, it's fine, no need, have a good night. Sure, I could have said vampires are supposed to stay up all night, but I've got to recharge my batteries. So, that's what was said. Also, I also wrote and said, thank you, Joanna. I'm sorry the interview had to end. I was hoping to redirect it to find out more about Asha as a person. I was very curious to find out more. So, there we go. I'm going to double check Coley right now. And I'll say, so, Coley, I am going to end the broadcast. Okay? And whenever she tells me okay, then I'm going to say goodbye to you YouTubers because, you know, that won't end up in the final cut. So, there we go. And now I'm just waiting for her to reply or to log back in, whichever she's going to. And then it's going to be a night. We'll call it a night. I'm going to end the recording. I apologize to you YouTubers. It probably gets boring just hearing me talk to myself. Especially those big long silences of me just waiting for people. Not talking to you. Because that's not the goal of these big long waits. You know? The goal of it is not for me to entertain you, it's for me to wait for the co-host, but I have to keep you guys in mind, so I do. Even though very, very, very few of you guys ever watch this, and I understand that. Why would anyone want to watch this short version of the show? I sure wouldn't want to watch it, actually. Well, there's some few laughs that come every once in a while, but you know how that goes. I don't think it makes up for those big, long treks of silence sometimes. Or the thing of people repeating themselves 20 times. I wouldn't find it worth listening to. If any of you guys are listening to this stuff, let me know. Put a comment below. Because I'm very curious to who's actually listening to this on YouTube. Okay, so Koi hasn't even seen it, so I'm going to say no. She's taking too long to respond. I'm going to cut the broadcast. So, thank you all for listening. You're going to get quite an earful if you listen to the sun-edited version. You'll get me arguing with an interviewee. I hope that never happens. But, you know. And hey, if any of you guys, you know, want to discuss the European, you know, point of view on things and European view on children's literature, please comment below. I'd like to actually hear it. It would be good to hear our people's stuff on it. Not to mention, of course, you have to remember that the Little Mermaid kills herself. Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! And some versions, the Beast ends up dying at the end of Beauty and the Beast. You know. Anyway. And yes, Shockhead Pier. You should all listen, read it. And watch the Tiger Lily version of it. Very, very nice. Anyway. Sign out.